Hello again, and welcome to the Amish in Our Backyard podcast. If you haven't watched any of our other episodes yet, you'll hear from students at Rockhurst University about Amish culture, a culture that myself and my co-hosts are not too familiar with. But again, a time for us to learn with you all about this culture that's really closer than we think. In each episode, we'll focus on a different cultural theme. Now to begin, I'm Kaylee, and I'll let my co-hosts introduce themselves as well.
I'm Weedland. I'm Claire.
Joey.
And I'm Grace.
Now let's jump into the idea of intercultural conflict within the Amish culture.
So I think the first really important thing to know about the Amish as it relates to conflict is they are pretty pacifist. They don't really believe in violence or any sort of physical conflict.
I never think of the Amish having really problems with anyone.
Do we know because I'm sure there's some, maybe not major conflicts, but I feel like there's everyone and everything gonna have a little bit of problems. Try to compromise when they're trying to fix it, you know what I mean? Or what do we think?
I did some research and I found that it said if there's a dispute within the community, the bishop or the highest ranking member of the Amish clergy will solve it.
That does make sense.
If it's a problem that's too big to resolve, other bishops from other communities and in other states can step in and help try to solve it too.
That has to be big conflict.
They do avoid going to the law, so that doesn't check out for them to stay within their Christian views, and stay within their church, and have them deal with it. They don't have much of any ties with the government, do they? Except for obviously paying the tax and paying what they need to pay. But other than that, it's they live away from that and live away from the government.
Yeah, they actually refuse military service, so none of them serve in the military at all, just because they are very pacifist. The Amish also have a policy of non-resistance, which means that when the government does instruct them to do things that are against their faith, they refuse to do it, but accept the consequences without argument. So if I'm trying to think of an example right now, say
someone stole a cow.
Yeah, if someone stole a cow and the government was you need to press charges, they wouldn't press charges, but they would accept that the consequence of them not pressing charges would be that they will never find out who stole a cow.
Dang.
Possibly. That's a really bad example, but just something that came to mind.
I get it.
So while they might not respect the complete governmental authority, they do have this idea called Gelsenheit. I think that's how you say it. And it's the idea that a believer should surrender to God by living in a way that pleases God and by obeying legitimate religious authority. So those would be those bishops like Joey was talking about. So I think it's interesting that they have a term for that whole concept of believing in religious authority.
There was a Wisconsin versus Yoder case, and basically it was where it allowed children to stop being educated at age 14 because they said that children are exposed to modern values above that education, above 14 when they're educated. But since we kind of mentioned how they really don't get involved with the law, they actually had, it's interesting, they actually had a committee of non-Amish defend the case for pro bono. So that's kind of interesting that they don't get involved with the law, but they can have non-committees kind of in their favor, talk for them in a sense.
And like Joey said, internal disputes are usually figured out within the community, but sometimes if there is a dispute that absolutely cannot be remedied, a family might leave and just join an entirely new Amish community.
What might result to that?
It might, imagine being you're kind of secluded and you're separated, so imagine there being so much tension and conflict that what else is there to do? Just get up and leave.
Yeah, and I feel going back to just conflict, and they, in a sense, kind of avoid conflict, or just kind of try to not have it happen in the first place, and that kind of works in how what we learned about peacebuilding and how they're kind of working towards that equilibrium and that stability in a society, so that they don't have disputes that do escalate into violence or war, where they don't have to figure out how can we solve this without getting the law involved in different things like that. They kind of just try to really focus that and emphasize that idea of just kind of peace building stuff, which I think is really nice. And I know I feel just having peace everywhere just makes the world a better place, you know?
Well, I guess I did see something too, that I guess peace building and kind of being direct with how they're dealing with conflicts goes back to all the way to 1693.
Wow.
Before the Mennonites and Amish split.
Way back.
Yeah, so they used to be the Swiss Anabaptists together, and then they split into the Mennonite and Amish branches in 1693 because the leader of the Anabaptists was like pushing for shunning and other like religious innovations and punishments, and the other side didn't really like that, so they just split.
So kind of
Yeah.
like when we went for like incompatibility, and like they were not able to like kind of like harmonize or agree on different things, so they had to kind of like
Found a way to make
so
it
that
work.
everyone's like getting what they want and no one's getting
Yeah.
harmed and stuff, you know?
yeah.
Being peaceful about it.
Well, thank you so much for joining our conversation about the Amish and intercultural relationships. Signing off, I'm Grace.
Joey.
Kaylee.
Claire, and I'm Weedland.
Bye.